Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway. Today I'm going to be spilling some of my personal secrets on track maintenance. Large portions of my layout are set directly onto the carpet, and this is not ideal, believe me, I understand that completely. The fact is though that we're not planning to live at this house forever. The last thing I want to do is put my heart and soul into the model railway of my dreams and then have to just abandon it and have to start again at another place. So while ever we are still here, I'm happy to be on the carpet. And despite the carpet not being the ideal setting for a model railway, you will notice that when I run locomotives on it, they run absolutely perfectly, most of the time. Sometimes I do come across faulty locomotives and then they don't work properly, but if there's nothing wrong with the locomotive, there will be nothing wrong with the way the locomotive runs on my layout. Now, I'd love to lie to you now and say that I spend hours and hours every month keeping my track absolutely perfectly clean. The fact is though, I just don't. In the space of about 1 month, I probably spend 45 minutes to an hour just maintaining the track. It really isn't a big deal at all. And there is one, it's not even a secret really, but there is one ingredient to this success. And it is this, it is a track rubber, or more specifically a Pico track rubber. More on this later on. However, it might surprise you to learn that I think there is something even more important than having clean track and well-serviced locomotives, and it's something that you only have to worry about once. As soon as this is sorted out, you never have to worry about it again, and that thing, believe it or not, is fish plates, or rather the condition of fish plates. Now, fish plates are super important, but they're hardly ever talked about. Now, there are two main purposes to fish plates, of course. First things first, electrical contact. They allow multiple pieces of track to be connected together electrically so that your locomotives can draw power from the track. We all understand this. The second main function of fish plates is to hold railway tracks together to create nice smooth joints between different pieces of track. And if when you're running your model trains you're seeing lots of stuttering, lots of jumping around, derailments and such, I wouldn't jump straight to your locomotives, dismantling them, trying to find out what's wrong. I would always say check your fish plates, or if you're building a model railway from scratch, before you pin the track down into place, check the condition of the fish plates. If you've got a slightly bent up fish plate like this one, the electrical contacts between the two pieces of track connected by that fish plate could seriously be bottlenecked. If you've only got a tiny surface area through which current can pass, you get much more resistance, and this is what causes locomotives to slow down on larger layouts as they get further from the power supply. If the rails were not joined by fish plates and they were just one constant piece of track, I think that slowdown would be considerably less. Also, if the fish plates are not in good condition, you won't have nice smooth rail joins, which could cause derailments and other stuttering and things. So be sure to check out your fish plates and make sure they are conducting properly. Do a little test before you pin the track into place. Tug the two pieces of track apart. Are they really easy to pull apart? If they are, then you've probably not got a great connection there, and you should consider replacing that fish plate or possibly adjusting it with a pair of pliers. You can just gently squeeze the fish plate just to make that slightly better connection, and that will mean that when you plug those two pieces of track together, there will be a firm connection there, and you're not going to see issues with conductivity or dodgy rail joins. Okay, let's talk about the second main ingredient to good running on your model railway, and that is of course the track rubber, the Pico track rubber, as I keep saying. Now, this is a controversial thing. Every time I mention track rubbers, people say, oh, you shouldn't use those, they're terrible. And I thought, why do people hate track rubbers so badly? Well, it turns out there's a video out there that does a pretty good job of poo-pooing the track rubber. Now, I'm not going to tell you who made the video, I'm not going to point you to their channel. I'm not here to undermine other YouTube channels. We all have our different ways of doing things, we all have our different methods, and that is great. It's great that we're all different. However, in the video in question, I felt there was quite a lot of misinformation about track rubbers, and today I am going to correct some of that, if you will allow me to. So the main way in which the video in question besmirches the good name of track rubbers is by means of this demonstration which I've recreated. So the person in the video takes a track rubber and a piece of wood, and they rub the track rubber against the piece of wood quite a lot, 40 to 50 strokes on that piece of wood, and that obviously creates lots of dust and dirt, and they say this dust and dirt will go down onto your track and into your locomotives, and you don't want that. That is bad. Now, hopefully, just by watching me do this demonstration, you can see just how invalid this experiment is. In case you can't, though, let me just explain it to you. So there are 3 reasons why this experiment is nonsense and it is invalid. First of all, look at the number of strokes here. 40 or 50 strokes, that is way too much. When I'm cleaning my track with the track rubber, because I do it every month, that is my first top tip, do it every month, don't do it too often, don't leave it too long. Because I do it every month, the track is never very dirty when I come to clean it, so 4 strokes, 1, 2, 3, 4, move on, 1, 2, 3, 4, is more than enough. You don't need to be rubbing 40 or 50 times. So if we change the experiment to represent that, just 4 strokes, you can see there is a lot less dirt that would be going onto this hypothetical track. However, there's another problem. We're using a piece of wood. Now, the coefficient of friction between a track rubber and a piece of wood is going to be much, much higher than the coefficient of friction between the track rubber and nickel-silver track. And that's because if we zoom in close to a piece of wood, the surface of that wood is not smooth. It's really, really bumpy, and that breaks off more material from the track rubber and creates that dust you can see. So instead of using a piece of wood, which is just, I don't understand why you would do that, let's swap it for a piece of brass, which will have a much lower coefficient of friction, and repeat the experiment again. As you can see, the number of crumbs and the amount of dust and mess that comes off the track rubber is considerably less. We're still not done though. This experiment is still invalid because we're using the entire surface of the track rubber to clean this piece of brass, when obviously in a more practical circumstance we'd be cleaning a piece of track. And even though the experiment is now making next to no mess, the contact area between the track rubber and the piece of brass here is an order of magnitude higher than it would be if I was cleaning track, because each 00 gauge rail is only 1 millimeter wide and this track rubber is 25 millimeters wide, which means you're only going to have about 2 millimeters in contact with the track rubber when you're cleaning track, except in this experiment we have 25 millimeters of track rubber in contact with the brass. So if I do swap that out for a piece of track, and I'm even going to use the rubber correctly during this demonstration rather than rubbing at the end as was done during the original demonstration for some reason. So here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see just how little mess is made and just how silly that initial experiment was. So don't believe everything you've heard about track rubbers. There are also track rubbers and track rubbers. Some track rubbers are terrible. I bought, I think, a Gauge Master one once and it made a huge amount of mess. These Pico ones do not. In fact, the ones that you've seen me demonstrating with, I've had for years and years. I use them every month and they're still usable, they're still fine. They don't make a huge amount of dirt. And as for track rubbers damaging the surface of your model railway tracks, again, as far as I'm concerned, that is nonsense. Parts of this track have been down on the floor since 2013 and they have been cleaned every single month since then, and as you can see, they look like new. And what's more, at the end of each month when I come to clean the tracks, they never ever look dirty. If anything, after cleaning they have a little bit more shine to them, but there's absolutely no evidence that these track rubbers damage the surface of the track, which causes them to attract more dirt. It's just not true. I've done this for years. They're absolutely fine. As you can see, like I say, absolutely brand new looking. That is not all though. Here comes the next secret ingredient now, and this is the Dapol track cleaner. Now I have a love-hate relationship with this Dapol track cleaner. It came with a whole load of accessories which polish and buff the rails and do all sorts to the rails. I don't use any of that. I found them useless. In fact, the thing gets too hot after really 30 seconds use, which makes the thing unusable. I don't use any of those attachments besides this one, and this is a vacuum cleaner. And what I do once I have used the track rubber on all of my track, I send the Dapol track cleaner around the layout with the vacuum on. It's pulled along by this is my tart class. I actually have a really good use for this now. Because it has its own power supply, because it has this 9-volt battery, it doesn't go really fast. If I just used another locomotive and I turned the controller right up so that we've got maximum speed on the vacuum cleaner, of course, the locomotive would pull the track cleaner along far too fast and it wouldn't do a good job cleaning. Using the tart class like this, it goes nice and slowly, and 2 laps is enough to keep the track perfectly clean. And even though I use the track rubber once a month, I actually use the Dapol track cleaner once or twice a week. And it goes around the whole layout, all 3 lines, twice per line. And look, look how tiny the amount of dust and dirt there is. In fact, it's mostly ballast, isn't it really? Look how small the amount of dirt is that track rubber connects up. So first of all, yes, this proves that the track rubbers aren't half as messy as some would have you believe. And also, just as on a little personal note, to those people that say, oh, running trains on the carpet, you're going to get all the lint and dust from the carpet stuck in your locomotives, it's going to damage them and you're going to ruin your life and you're going to waste your money and destroy all your models. Well, where is all the dust and lint? Tell me, where is it? If this dap old track cleaner, sucking at the track as it goes along, cannot attract that dust, dirt and hair, how the hell are my locomotives going to attract the dust, dirt and hair just by running over the tracks? No, to be quite honest, just a really basic cleaning ritual, little and often, keeps the layout perfectly clean, and the vacuum isn't too strong that it's going to be pulling lots of ballast up off the track. I do get a little bit, but it's not too bad. And then of course, if you're really confident that your ballast is well stuck down, you could use a more powerful vacuum cleaner. This is what I do on the carpeted areas, for example, and that just does an even better job of cleaning. But obviously, if your ballast isn't too well stuck down, this could fetch it up, and you don't really want to do that. So there you go, that is my method of cleaning track, and as you know, it works absolutely perfectly. I'm at the point where I just automatically do all of this every single month, which means that whenever I want to come up and run trains on this railway, I don't have to think about the track being clean, I don't have to think about any of it. I just bung the locomotives on the track and they work as they should. That is absolutely fantastic, and that's perfect for me because I do this for a living. I don't have time to be messing about with the track every time I come up here to do a review or something. It's really handy to just have the track ready to go as soon as I need to use it. So that's what I do on a relatively large layout like mine. If you've got much less track though, you might find that you've got more time for track cleaning, and if you do, I would recommend using IPA. Now, our friend in the other video that I've talked about also has a big problem with IPA because apparently it contains lots of water, and we know that putting water on your tracks is not a good idea. It will cause corrosion, blah blah blah. Well, again, there's a problem with that. One quote from the video is, most IPA you buy is 70% alcohol and about 28% water. Well, that is not true. If I do an eBay search for IPA, you can see that, well, every single result that comes up is 99.9% pure, which means at the very most we have 0.1% water inside this. And when you consider that the percentage of water in the air we breathe can be up to 4%, I think 0.1% is fairly insignificant, isn't it? Now, that might not be the case in other countries. If you go onto ebay.com, that's the American version, and type in IPA, you've got, yes, 70% IPA. That is in line with what that other video quoted. Is that the end of the day then? Do we just go home and forget IPA? Well, yes, unless of course you're adverse to just typing in 4 extra characters, and those are 99.9. If you do that, you will find, yes, plenty of 99.9% pure IPA is present, and this does a fantastic job of cleaning track. So our method for this is just to apply a small amount of the IPA onto an old rag or a handkerchief or something like that, and just wipe the surface of the rails clean. I actually used this technique when I did those experiments, you know, when I was doing these sort of 7 days locomotive running experiments, that kind of thing, and it kept the track really, really clean for the most part. There was a point when that little 040 I was running went for 24 hours or more without having the wheels and track cleaned, and yet the locomotive never at any point started running badly. However, a little bit more recently, I watched a video by Model Railways Unlimited that taught me something that I didn't know already. So the video talks about IPA being a polar solvent, and if you want to know more about what that means, I will include a link up in the top left so that you can watch the video for yourself. But essentially it means that while using IPA to clean your track might do a good job of removing the dirt, it could mean that the track will get dirty more quickly after the fact. So if true, then maybe IPA isn't actually the best choice for track cleaning, for that reason though, not because there's water in it or anything like that. The suggested alternative to IPA in Mike's video is to use some sort of contact cleaner, which apparently is a non-polar solvent, which will not cause your track to get dirtier after time. Now, no doubt this will improve the situation from an electrical or a conductivity standpoint. However, I'm not certain how this will affect a locomotive's grip or a locomotive's traction, because it is not true that model railway tracks are just electrical circuits. It's not true that they are just switches or whatever. No, there's a lot more to that. There's an interface between locomotive wheels and the track of a model railway, and between those two there needs to exist friction. And that is the basis by which locomotives can haul a load. If you've got lubricant or sticky stuff on the track, that is really going to impair your locomotive's ability to haul a decent load. It's also going to make your track sticky, which will attract dirt more. So maybe that is something I need to investigate in a future video. I could do a follow-up video maybe. I could get some contact cleaner, clean my track with it, and test the tractive effort of locomotives before and after. If that's something you'd like to see me try, do post a comment down below and I will look into doing that. So that is the bulk of the video. Those are most of my track cleaning tips and hopefully they are useful. Do of course let me know down in the comments what techniques you use to clean your track, what works really well for you, what doesn't work well for you. I'd be really interested to collect some data on that. I thought then that I would just finish this video with some parting tips on what more you can do to improve the running of your models based on your track. So first of all, don't forget your points and junctions and other parts like that. Those are all switches, and if they get dirty and corroded, you can get issues. So I would recommend pulling up one of these. This is called a fiber pen, and this is really good for cleaning up electrical contacts. I have talked about these before. So yeah, find the contacts on your points. Most points will have various different wiper contacts. Just make sure those are all really nice and clean, making good contacts. Sometimes the little flaps on certain points can get themselves a little bit loose so that they're not making good contact. Use a screwdriver to make sure those are making really good contact with the points, and you shouldn't have any problems. Also, on larger layouts, bear in mind that even if your fish plates are adjusted correctly, you will still see voltage drop in the track as the locomotive ventures further from the controller. So adding multiple sources of power into your layout can be a really big help, and you might not have noticed it, but around my room I do have a whole big, well, it's a big fistful of wires really, which carry that current without the interference of fish plates and rail joints or nickel silver track. It's just a direct connection to the other side of the room where they reconnect to the track in a nice subtle location, and that helps to make sure the voltage across the entire layout is nice and constant. Of course, now the layout is divided into quarters, so at a quarter of the way around the layout on the left and on the right, you still see a little bit of slowdown. I suppose if I was to build another layout, I would have 4 points of input. I'd have some at well, every quarter of the layout really. I didn't do that with this layout and I don't really have any major problems, but if I was going to have my time again, that is something I would probably do, and it's something I think I will do in the future if I build more model railways. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. That is it. I will stop waffling on about this now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Alright, cheers folks, take care.